Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Michelle Charlton. I'm from Skills Education. Thank you for joining us. If this is your second time or a repeat visit to Skills Education, thanks and welcome back. This is the channel that is supporting presenters who are supporting vet practitioners. If this is your first time, definitely welcome. We've got Deb Carr here to talk to us today. She's continuing her series in RPL and ways to do RPL better. How RTOs can actually consider making that assessment-only pathway a more efficient and effective option for their operations. And Deb draws on her research to talk about this. So while everyone is getting settled, before we hand over to Deb, just run through some really quick housekeeping for you. If you're in the waiting room, you might have seen the instructions about how to use the chat, and that's definitely what we'll be doing today. So pop your hellos and shout outs in, and we can see Andy and Melissa in there already. Good morning to you all. That's exactly what we need you to do. And Deb's also done quite a bit of background work, and she's collated some handouts for you for today. So across from the chat, you'll see the handouts tab. You can download those straight away onto your computer. So make sure you access those handouts. Andy, if you can't hear sound, see if you can click onto the middle of the screen, and that should activate the sound for you. Now, I will also let you know that today's session is being recorded. So once the live session is over, you will get a notification from Better, who supply all of the technology for the Skills Ed sessions. And that email will just be alerting you to the fact that you can log into the Better portal. Any registrant can do that and access the recording. You'll also get an email asking for feedback. And I know that Deb definitely values the feedback that you can offer as part of a review on the content of each session. But also importantly, that feedback email triggers your PD record. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. Now that's everything out of the way, and I can see, I won't exactly read out what Andy is saying, but I'm getting the strong hint that we've figured out the sound issue, so that's good. Thanks everyone for contributing to the helping hand on that issue. Now Deb is going to continue presenting the outcomes of her research. Now Deb conducted this research as part of her postgraduate study, master's degree at Charles Darwin University. Her thesis was on global learning, the Master of Education was on global learning, and her thesis was the RPL candidate as a neglected stakeholder. As part of that particular course, Deb actually went on an international study tour through Germany and Thailand, and she does have a current contract position with VetAssess, where she's actually privileged to be able to help other countries implement and improve their RPL frameworks. So the fact that we've got someone with such a wide experience willing to share their expertise with us on this topic is a real bonus for us, and it's something that makes Deb infinitely qualified to talk to us today. We're very happy to welcome Deb today.
Thanks so much, Michelle. Big intro, thank you. So these sessions are around be there for your candidates. They are targeted for RPL program managers and practitioners that seek to do RPL better. Today, I will first share findings from my research that are relevant to this topic, and then share an interview with Andy Brown, an RPL pedagogical advisor from Chaplain College, Canada. Andy is in our audience today, and we'll welcome questions later on. A note for our international audience: context is in the Australian National Vet System, whereby RPL assesses informal learning as per defined in our AQF. My research revealed many problems associated with the practice of RPL, no surprises there. As I continue to research, listen and practice, potential solutions are evolving. This 10-part series delivers 10 possible solutions to doing RPL better, mainly at program level. I think these will improve RPL practice because they speak directly to candidate experience. We have systemic problems With RPL funding and overly prescriptive units, the two big problems, in my opinion. But these sessions recognise RPL can be done better within the system that we have. Australia's national competency-based RPL framework is envied by many countries. The changing nature of work, globalisation, ageing demographics, and the rapid pace of technological advancement drive national imperatives for RPL. COVID-19 has placed even more imperative on RPL. RPL can make skills more visual to individuals and employers. In this way, RPL can improve the efficient use of skills, reducing underemployment. The efficient use of skills directly impacts our economy's social fabric. So I've tried to structure these webinars to provide you with 1, evidence-based information on candidates' experience, and 2, real-life examples of good practice that offer solution to improve these negative experiences. So OECD recently released a report on things VET can do in response to the global crisis of COVID-19. Included in this report was a call on VET systems across the world to utilise RPL as a direct route to qualifications, particularly for vulnerable groups, unfinished apprentices, and older workers. News from the NCVR on how Australia utilises RPL is in a report, Exploration of the RPL in Australia. Some analysis you may use to market your RPL programs. So RPL outcomes are declining. Only 3% of assessments, all assessments, are through RPL. I thought that was fairly low. A recent conversation with South Africa today discovered that, comparatively speaking, that's a positive figure. So there is a market. Domestic fee-for-service outfunds RPL compared to government. The international fee-for-service, RPL, is growing. The report also shows those qualifications and industries that have mostly used RPL in the past. Both reports are in your handouts. Other sessions. So our next session after today is number 7. Charge equal to coursework option. Fee for service is, as I said, the biggest funder for RPL, and customers base their decisions not only on price. Some business models that work will be shared in this session. Number 8, throw out the RPL info book. We've had a lot of conversations online in a LinkedIn post. It's intimidating and not that helpful. So this will be a really interesting presentation because we've got both digital and human approaches to helping people make informed choices for enrolment. Number 9, invest in industry expertise. RPL guru John Price will join us for this session. Very excited. Number 10, build partnerships with employers. The dreaded third-party report, the second biggest difficulty for candidates. So as Michelle said, this is as a result of my master's research. It consisted of 2 stages. Over 6 months, I conducted this research. I analysed over 54 interviews with assessors and candidates. 21 assessors had collective experience conducting over 5,000 RPL assessments across all AQF, all institution types, and many different training packages. This analysis collected 264 expressions of difficulties. Stage 2, research subjects were TAE RPL candidates. They themselves were assessors undergoing RPL assessment. I followed their journeys for 4 months. This analysis collected 387 expressions of difficulties across that time frame. As Michelle said, the research included a study tour to Germany and Thailand, and also a literature review. The data collected gave insight into the challenges candidates experience from the perspective of assessors and candidates' own voice. So what did I discover? 41%, almost half of all difficulties expressed by candidates surround mindset. Mindset difficulties are those states of mind that act as a barrier to successfully engage in the RPL process. Successful engagement, as defined by the research project, is progressing through RPL as per the initial enrolment. Candidates clearly recognised the process demanded mental fortitude. It's just my mental process because I have all the support I could possibly need from my employer and from my family. Mindset is an issue. It's an issue, but it's manageable. I know I've got the capability and the tools inside me to overcome it and work through it. I've got the capacity, the mental fortitude, and the emotional intelligence to navigate it. Later on, Andy and I will chat about exactly what is success when it comes to RPL. In amongst these mindset difficulties, I found themes. Of those, I want to share 3 with you: loss of confidence, feeling professionally questioned, and a negative learning biography. All candidates expressed lost confidence in doing the RPL process. Throughout interviews, I realised a distinct difference between confidence in doing the process and confidence in their own professional competence. This is about losing confidence in doing RPL. Loss of confidence has an impact score of 693. So the impact score is the number of candidates that expressed the difficulty times the number of times the difficulty was mentioned across the 4 months. So loss of confidence had the highest score of 693. The lowest score is 24. All candidates mentioned it, and they mentioned it frequently about this difficulty. So many candidates expressed feeling overwhelmed. A candidate said, even though I understand RPL, it just seemed like Everest. It just seemed such a big task. They expressed a sense of lost agency, particularly around gathering evidence. One stated, so the level of control was very low because you're trying to influence other people to assist you. She was talking about past employers. And another, I felt like helpless. I was like a cork popping in the ocean thinking, oh shit, I can't do this. They expressed an erosion of confidence. One candidate said, because I came into this thinking, oh, this will be reasonably straightforward because it's just what I do. And then each step of the way, I felt like my confidence was being undermined. And it should have been quite the opposite. It should have been me saying, this is what I do. I'm good at this. I should feel confident. This process actually eroded her confidence. Many candidates admitted to a fear of failure, particularly to have to resubmit. One said, the whole RPL process is a big unknown for me. That's a big one for me. I just didn't know if what I was answering was adequate. And another, I was really nervous I was not going to be successful. RTOs that implement a one strike and you're out, they feed this fear. These mindsets are about loss of confidence in doing the RPL process. I'd like to share with you MJ's story. Let's call her MJ. She was seeking RPL in the TAE package using her year's experience as a trainer and assessor in the state emergency services. Compared to other candidates, she had the lowest level of prior education attainment. She was struggling. She felt she couldn't do it. She said, I'll just quit so I don't have to fail. Failing was a huge fear for her. I'd followed her journey from when she started. She wanted to do the qualification, in her words, just for my sense of worth. It was important for her. She was intrinsically driven. She shared her self-talk with me. And then you sort of go through that, I'm such a loser. I should have had this finished. Or why can everyone else do it, but I can't? That sort of thinking. I later asked MJ how she was coping with her difficulties. And she said, I cope with them all right. They just get me really frustrated and disappointed in myself. Unfortunately, MJ did quit. This experience for her reinforces her lack of self-efficacy. 67% of assessors interviewed said they typically heard, "I've been doing this work for a while and I know I'm good at my job, but I don't know how I'm going to go in this RPL process." Why does this matter? Why does it matter that RPL reduces confidence? In the big picture, policy rhetoric claims RPL builds confidence and contributes to re-engagement in the education system. My research shows quite possibly the opposite. In fact, some assessors felt the overriding loss of confidence experienced by candidates may negatively impact on further engagement with the formal education and training system. 2, at individual level, failing at the RPL process itself reinforces individuals' negative learning biography, particularly for those who have actively avoided formal post-school learning. There's a sense of, I've failed at school and I've failed here too. Mr. Daniel Baril from UNESCO spoke on the importance of lifelong learning in the 21st century. He believes people living now are under a lot more pressure to be functional in a lot of learning domains. Think about work-related education, health education, particularly now, getting correct information on how to protect ourselves and our loved ones, financial literacy, digital literacy, citizen education. Think how complex was it last time you had to change your address. There is pressure in contemporary life to be good learners, confident learners, or risk being left behind or excluded. Being a confident learner matters. In a way, a failed RPL experience also questions one's ability for informal learning. So I've made a claim of learning achieved through informal environments. I've learnt on the job. But the formal system is telling me no. Eight candidates said they struggled with feeling professionally questioned, with an impact score of 160. Malcolm Knowles, who penned the Principles of Adult Learning, reiterated that because adults define themselves by their experience, they have deep investment in its value. And when it's rejected, they tend to feel rejected as a person. Candidates struggle with how this process makes them question their own workplace competency. One candidate said, "People employ me based on my knowledge of this stuff, so why don't assessors trust me that I know my stuff?" And another, "I started querying and questioning my capabilities, and then I get very anxious going, oh, I can't do it. And I go into this big meltdown, and it's really ridiculous." And another, "Well, I think we probably do have this knowledge, but we question ourselves because somebody is asking evidence of it." If this was the only negative mindset problem, it may actually be conducive to meta-learning. And that's good. When candidates question themselves, they become more aware of what they know and what they don't know. That contributes to reflective practice. However, because this is not the only mindset difficulty, being professionally questioned sometimes is the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak. In our previous session, Build Accurate Expectations, a large portion of our conversation was around orientating candidates to expect that not all their experience will be relevant, that their experience is seen through the lens of a unit of competency. Unfortunately, with some units, there is a disconnect between the unit and the work world. This also adds to the candidate's angst. From assessors' perspective, they shared that some candidates feel embarrassed, judged, humiliated, belittled, devalued, and some even react violently. Some quit and some just disappear. One assessor said candidates have respect in their workplaces, and entering an education setting makes them feel somehow lesser. Another assessor wrapped it up quite well. Candidates present as, I've been doing this for so long, therefore I must know it. There can be no possibility that I do not know what I need to know and how to do it. He continues to say it is therefore very difficult to engage in a process that would have them even ask a question or actually say, I don't understand the question. This creates incredible challenges personally. 8 assessors indicated that a negative learning biography was difficult for candidates, a global phenomenon, particularly for adult learners, kind of like adults with learning baggage. These sentiments were usually held by candidates with low education attainment or a long time out of the formal education. Sentiments can be summarised as feeling intimidated by formal education, informed from previous negative learning experience, whether it be at school or other. Assessors indicated candidates have a sense of fear, nervousness, and apprehension. They said candidates are fearful of the flexibility of RPL, with one assessor saying, there are no set rules. They fear the intimacy of RPL. One assessor said, in coursework pathways, learners can respond to questions and remain sterile, whereby RPL candidates have their personal work experience judged. The AQF in 2012 emphasised RPL is an intrinsically personal negotiation. Assessors said negative learning biographies are related to a lack of confidence in reading and writing skills. And there usually is a lot of reading and writing involved in RPL. One assessor mentioned the fear of literacy is a barrier for potential candidates who back off from RPL opportunities. Many RTOs have an expectation candidates are proficient with computers. Our previous guest, Nicole Barrett from WA, confirmed a 70-year-old childcare worker held off for years because she couldn't use the computer properly. It was only through seeing others succeed that she braved an application for herself. And fear of failure. One RPL researcher said to me, a sense of potential failure is really endemic, particularly in people who are not empowered. Why is this important? Having a positive learning identity impacts what individuals take on in the first instance. It impacts their persistence and also impacts likelihood of completion in terms of not only RPL, but in terms of professional development and career progression. As I put together this webinar, I relive in a concentrated version these candidates' difficulties. I feel sad at the seemingly constant barrage of obstacles and saddened to know of some candidates since quitting. However, I'm awed with the amount of resilience and emotional fortitude some candidates engage. It wasn't all bad. It's an emotional roller coaster. Admittedly, my study focused on the challenges, the difficulties, and how they coped with them. The most emotionally demanding time is when candidates receive feedback from their first unit that may request additional evidence. RTO should identify this as a point for intervention, for human support. This is the most likely time candidates will disengage. Candidates engage themselves 3 mindset strategies: positive reappraisal, positive affirmation, and chunking. They use these strategies to increase feelings of agency, reduce fear of failure, reduce feeling overwhelmed, and build self-confidence. RTOs can use this knowledge to target their support, to invest in support frameworks that facilitate candidates' own strategies. 9 candidates used positive reappraisal. This is a process that recognises negative feelings one has around an event and reframes the situation to reduce the severity of those negative feelings. It involves cognitively reframing RPL as a more positive event. What does this look like? Candidates said things like, I'm going to approach this as a reflection exercise. Another, I've got an open mind and I'm positive about what I might learn along the way. And another, despite all my efforts, there will be some gaps, so I expect it will be back and forth, and that's okay. They reappraised what failure is. So 9 candidates used positive affirmation. These are positive statements that helps one challenge and overcome self-sabotaging those negative thoughts. Candidates said things like, I feel quite confident I will be successful. I procrastinate, but I always get there in the end. And another, I know I've got the capability and tools inside me to overcome and work it through. And another, so I went back over my past experience and I thought, just get your act together and just do it. 6 candidates used chunking to reduce feeling overwhelmed. Candidates said things like, I'm ticking off slowly, just pacing it. And another, I freak out when I think of the whole big thing. I break it down into little chunks. And another, I think like a day at a time, and that's all I can do. And another, of course, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. So these sessions are for RPL program managers and practitioners to improve practice so that candidates' experience is more positive. Understanding candidates' mindsets from empirical evidence provides RTOs with confidence that they are investing in the right strategies. A few tips for RTOs in perhaps easy strategies to implement. Design your RPL program for an iterative process, not one strike and you're out. Set timelines for feedback. Letting the candidate sit, wonder and wait increases anxiety. 1 RTO undertake to respond to submissions within 4 working days. Set accurate expectations. Not all experience will be relevant and there may be some learning involved. And that's okay. Be there. Proactively check in on candidates. Sometimes their own professional expectations will stop them initiating queries. Chat pods were popular. Positive affirmation. 1 candidate received a card with their statement of attainment saying, so far so good. Make feedback positive even when it's negative. Connect candidates with other candidates. Many research subjects felt chatting with other candidates and sharing challenges would have been helpful. So we welcome Andy to share his program where he leads a team of assessors and subject matter experts in Quebec, in Canada, in RPLing adults in the transport and logistics industry. You have a handout that summarises Andy's key strategies. As we listen to this video, please post questions that Andy and I can discuss after the session. So all candidates did struggle with a positive mindset. In fact, as I've mentioned before, 41% of all difficulties were to do with mindset. So what is your experience with candidates struggling with maintaining a positive mindset?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you want to basically go through the RPL process, you've got to be engaged and you've got to be motivated, and it's got to be mainly intrinsic motivation. And that's really difficult to maintain, and then when you start if you hit any roadblocks, that really dents that engagement and that intrinsic motivation. So yeah, I think in all educational environments, one of the most important things is motivation.
Yeah,
because that leads to engagement.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that throws a spanner in the works for that person's motivation, that's going to slow the process down, or it might, even if it gets bad, curtail or stop the process.
Yeah. So what would be some intrinsic motivation that RPL candidates that you know about generally? What drives them?
I mean, the candidates that I work with, again, it's an extrinsic motivator, but it's for that. Basically, it's the RPL process is not the objective. It's the qualification you get at the end of that you need that piece of paper, or you need that qualification, or you need that recognition to be able to do something in the real world. So if that's not there, if you don't have a really good valid reason, for example, getting a job or getting a better job, getting a pay rise, keeping your job, that can make the whole process difficult, because there's no real extrinsic motivator there to drive you through this, what can be a challenging and heart-wrenching process. So that needs to be there. So I mean, I always find whenever I meet people, it's like, why do you need this qualification? What are you trying to do? And will the qualification help you do that? And if it won't, try and find them the thing that will help them to reach their primary professional development objective.
So what negative mindsets do you see that candidates struggle with?
I mean, I think I'm very fortunate in many respects. About most of my candidates are relatively recent immigrants, and they're very highly educated. So they're already really strong autonomous learners, which you need to be for the RPL process. So that they have all those skills on board. But at the same time, it's a new country. So everything's new. It's like, it's the unknown. So it's trying to reassure them that, okay, yes, this is different, but you know this stuff already. You can do this stuff. You've already proven that you can do it in another country through your education and also through your professional life. So that's most of the people I deal with. But then there's also people that probably left high school, left secondary school, and maybe high school and secondary school wasn't a very good experience for them. Those are some of the people that I think really struggle with the RPL process. Because
38% of my assessors indicated a negative learning biography was a difficulty. So low value of their own informal learning. We can only learn in the classroom. Reading and writing skills, fearful of the flexibility and the autonomy, as you said before, of the RPL process, fearful of formal education, negative previous learning experience in the formal sector, digital literacy. So what are your thoughts around those negative learning biographies?
I mean, in my experience, those are the people that are the most at risk for dropping out. Yeah, or having multiple restarts, which is fine, which is great. That's no problem at all. But those are the people that will actually, in my experience, and I've sort of researched this as well, those are the people that basically stop the process altogether, or are most at risk to stop the process altogether. Because I put my personal analysis of it is, they had a really bad time at school, and when they come back and it's, although it's not a formal classroom setting, it's still formal education in their minds, and it takes them back to that place. Even though they can be 45 years old and they can be highly accomplished professionals, suddenly they're this shy and incoherent and 14-year-old, 15-year-old that has very low self-confidence and believes that they can't do it.
From my research, even coming onto the institution's campus, started the anxiety rising in people.
Yeah, and that's, anxiety is a killer. It's like, the anxiety goes up, brain activity goes down, and also motivation goes down. So we got to keep that anxiety down, that stress down, to increase the brain capabilities and also the performance and engagement and motivation. It's yes we can, yes we can. It's it's Obama slogan time. It really
positive
is.
affirmation.
Absolutely, all the time, and trying any opportunity to say, this is not school. This is professional training. This is a professional process for professionals, by professionals. And we're all working together. So it's professionals for professionals with professionals.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's trying to eradicate. I almost think for some people, it's almost a form of PTSD, that they're taken back to this thing.
It feels like school. This is not a nice feeling.
Absolutely. And I don't do well in school. I can't do school. And it's trying to get rid of that thing. Is sort of, so in every situation, even though I work in an educational institution, I try everything I do to make it not like school.
Yeah.
So
can you tell us one of those strategies that you do?
Well, if anybody calls me Sarah, I say, no, my name's Andy.
That's a fairly simple strategy. It works.
Absolutely. Mr. Brown, no, I'm Andy. Call me Andy. Yeah. I think right from the outset, when I meet people before they even enter the RPL, it's just like, it's that primary objective. What's the primary objective? And if it's job or better job, we can do business, because we can keep focusing back on that primary objective. And remember why you're doing this, guys. It's to get this job. It's to get a job, or it's to get a better job. I know this doesn't seem this one seems a little bit of left, not relevant to what you do, but to get the qualification, hey, guess what? You've got to do it. I agree with you. It's not that thing, but let's get through it.
Okay. So yeah, that was something that came out in my research, that sometimes the qualification and the person's experience, therefore, had disconnect with the qualification. But your approach recognises that and then treats it as a learning journey.
Absolutely. I mean, just like, you say, hey, there's loads of things we have to file our taxes every year. We don't want to do it, but we have to do it. We have to do the washing. We don't want to do it, but we have to do it. It's like, let's get through this. Let's get through this with as little fuss as possible, little energy as possible, so we can come out so we can focus on the key things. I did actually make a point of this, but because I was sort of reading your notes, but the qualification and the process should be as close as possible to reality.
Absolutely, and we're struggling with that here in Australia.
If the qualification's not meeting reality, then it's not reality that has to change.
You don't say. Yeah, we are struggling with that at the moment.
Yeah. So that's it. That's another way you can relieve those negative issues to the process itself, and the validity to the process itself is make sure that your assessment practices and your what you're actually assessing is valid and real, to what's actually happening in the real world.
As much as you can contextualize it to their work experience, do so.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So on another note, the policy rhetoric here in Australia and literature across the globe presents RPL as a confidence building opportunity because it recognises individuals' ability to learn outside the formal system, and it gives a sense of, I can do formal education, and also boosts self-confidence because of the acquisition of a credential. So what do you say to that? Self-efficacy for lifelong learning?
I'd say yes, if the process works. And if it doesn't work, then it's actually going to be another harmful way that education's reduce that person's self-efficacy.
Yes, it's another learning injury.
It's exactly. It's just one more proof that I can't do education. I tried it when I was 14. I tried it when I was 16. I tried it when I was 20. I've tried it again now I'm 40. I can't do this stuff.
Yeah, I give up.
Yeah, I give up. Yeah, I'm not cut out for education, and of course they are.
I've had heaps of people say to me that, I'm no good at learning.
Yes. So I think if the process...
When you say when the process works, so this is the question. What is success in RPL? Is it gaining the credential, or is it increasing their confidence in their learning ability? Is that success?
I think both of those are possible successes. Gaining the qualification doesn't need to be the ultimate goal. For some people, they might only need parts of it. And if it's a partial recognition of the things, they just need, there's 10 things and they need 3 of them, and they get 3 of them. That's 100% success for me.
And is that how they see it as well?
Sorry?
It depends how you present it. Is that how the candidate sees it as well?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's that initial meeting. It's like, what do you actually need to achieve your personal professional development goal? That's the objective. If they can do it with 3 out of the 10, then that's the objective. Sure, they might want to go on to do the 10. Fantastic.
Yeah, we spoke about that last session. Building those accurate expectations is absolutely critical.
Sure. I mean, success for me is it's not defined by me. It's defined by the candidate.
Yeah. And you can ascertain that in that first discussion with them.
To a certain extent. Yeah. Sometimes
well, that's
you can't
true.
talk.
Yeah, like a lot of assessors said that candidates really don't know what it's all about until really that they actually start doing it.
Absolutely, but I mean, I read the notes and stuff. It is that expectation management. It's like, you know, this is going to be tough. This is going to be hard work. This is going to involve quite a lot of your time and energy to do it, and it won't be that quick. It won't be that quick a process, and it's managing those expectations so that they don't get demoralized when they, you know, they expect to be finished in 6 months, and they're up to 9 months and they're still only 2/3 of the way through. You know, so it's being realistic on the information that you give them, so that again to maintain that engagement and stuff. And I think it's, sorry, go on, Deb.
Well, I think it is absolutely imperative if the assessor can work it so that the chances of success in their mind, in the definition of success in their mind, is likely. I guess that's your job.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's also, we all have a tendency to, whenever we're struggling with something, the issue is us. The problem is us. We're not good enough. We're not capable. We got to turn that right around and sort of say, no. Everybody struggles with this process. Everybody finds this challenging. You're actually making better progress than most people do. People sometimes stop for 6 months and then come back. I call it a study vacation, you know, and they might come back 4 times into the process. Who cares? How many? If they restart 10 times, who cares? And again, it's trying to talk with the person and say, look, no, this is normal. This is normal for everybody. It's not you. It's the process. Yeah, and we're here to. Sorry.
So you've talked a lot about how your strategies are those interpersonal relations, like talking with them, presenting yourself as a professional colleague rather than a teacher student. Is there other strategies that help to maintain positive mindsets throughout?
Yeah, I mean, I think through experience, I mean, one of the qualifications I manage has a lot of math in it. It's not complicated math, but it's math, and I can spot the math phobics pretty soon, you know, and I sort of take them under my wing. Yeah, so they'll work with the expert, but then they might need a little bit of coaching with the math. And again, math is the thing that they believe that they can never do. So for one of the things I say is, like, to the teachers, I say, for goodness sake, never say the M word. Yeah, talk about what they do with numbers. Focus on the job task. Don't say the M word, mathematics or math. You know, because as soon as you say the M word, these people will go kludunk, and their brains will just stop working. Yeah. So, and these are people that are doing loads of math in their work already. They just don't call it math. They call it maximizing a trailer. They call it, I don't know, calculating sales bonuses.
Estimating a quote.
They're already using all the math skills that they need for the qualifications. They just never use the M word. So it's identifying people's weaknesses and then trying to put support services in place when you know that there's going to be a particular place where they're going to find it really challenging. Have those support places, networks, and those support systems in place, ready to go if they're needed.
Yeah, when you say weaknesses, I think it's more perceived weakness because of negative experiences, not always that they are actual weaknesses. Yeah.
I completely agree. I didn't mean, you know, again, it's in here.
Yeah.
This is what you have to work with. You have to change the way that they perceive themselves and their own abilities. And again, that comes back to self-efficacy. Yeah. So
yep. I want to just touch on the character of RPL as opposed to coursework. Sometimes I think it's more intimate, and you said certainly they need to have more autonomy. One assessor said, in full pathways, learners can respond to questions and remain sterile, whereby RPL candidates are open and have their performance, their work experience judged. RPL process is intimately individualistic process. That was the AQF statement in 2012. Malcolm Knowles said, also recognise that because adults define themselves by their experience, they have a deep investment in its value, and when it's rejected, they tend to feel rejected as a person. So, do you think that RPL is more intimate than coursework?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with all those statements. I mean, you don't want to contradict Knowles. So, yeah, I mean, all of us as human beings, if somebody points out that our performance isn't particularly optimal, we take it. It hurts our ego because we've been doing something maybe for 5 years a certain way, and we think we've been doing it well, and that feeds into our sense of self-worth and our professional esteem. And then if somebody comes along, well, actually, no, we should be doing it this way. It's
Absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of candidates that felt that their professionalism was being questioned, and that was really hard mindset to navigate through.
Sure. But I mean, that's that classic, oh God, it's completely gone. What's Merizo, the
Oh, yes.
transformative learning.
Yeah.
So again, you need that feedback that's like, no, actually what you think and what you think isn't particular. There is a different way of doing it, and potentially that different way of doing it is better. Now you can either, and you have to go through that transformative process of first being, really feeling really hurt and rejected, but then you need to actually value that new position or new strategy based on its merit. And then hopefully you'll move towards it if it is better practice. And there you go. You've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
you've
exactly
grown professionally.
Yeah. But some of them actually, and they use the qualification, the RPL process as a benchmark. Some said, oh, now I remember the methodologies and the theories behind what I'm doing. So it confirmed what they were doing, but they'd forgotten a few things and it helped them refresh and it improved their practice. Some said, actually, what I'm doing is much better than the baseline called this qualification.
Well, that's great, because again, I mean, one of the things about expertise is to evaluate your performance against benchmarks. And if the RPL benchmarks are low, well, that's great. That just means you're more of an expert than the qualification you're trying to attain. That's a good thing, I mean, if somebody came to me and said, oh, you should be doing this and this and this, that's nope, not doing that. That's not a good way. That's not the most effective way to promote learning. This is a better way, and this is the reason why, and this is the reason why, and this is the reason why.
Yeah,
I see that as a real positive, that those people have said, no, I know better, if they truly do.
So you've said you present as a professional colleague, you study the perceived weaknesses, the sticky points.
Challenges, bottlenecks.
Yeah. You maintain positive affirmation words when you communicate with them and build rapport. Anything I've missed?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's talking to people talking to people professionally, and you're building up a relationship when the person will slowly, with time, give you their trust and listen to the things that you're saying about them, to hopefully allow them to change the way they think about themselves. It's like, come on, I know you can do this. And again, it's having little strategies and I mean, for the math, I say, can you multiply, add, subtract, divide, and tie your shoelaces? And they go, what? Yeah, I can multiply, add, subtract, and divide, but what about shoelaces? I said, math is just a process. You do number one, then number two, and number three, and number four. If you can tie your shoelaces and do all the other things, you can do the M word in this course. And then again, it's like he's trying to lay it on the line. It's like really break it down. So this is not complicated stuff. You know how to do this stuff. Talk to them about the job. Say, look, you're using math there. You're using math there. You're using math there. You're using math there. You can do this. So it's like, it's that constant monitoring and intervening and anticipating where there might be challenges. And one of the simple ways of doing that is, this person hasn't been to university. They left high school and they've worked for 15, 20 years. This is a person I've got my little radars already going beep, beep, beep. And then later it might be going beep, 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 beep. And that's the time for me to intervene. I'll get my teachers, the content specialists, to intervene where this person needs more support. Yeah, all my wonderful master's degrees, autonomous learners, they don't need any support. They can do it all themselves. Yeah, they just need a little bit more convincing about the societal things rather than the actual technical qualifications.
Yeah, and we talked about social learning too last time you were a guest, and I think that those having that group approach would help a lot of those.
You're reading my notes. That's what I've got. Yeah, I mean, that for me is the power of that social thing. That's social. All those support networks are in there, and I find the people incredibly generous. I find them very, very supportive. And when somebody's finding something challenging, the whole group sort of seems to come together to sort of say, oh, can I help you? Are you okay? No, you can do this. They're doing all the work for us.
Yeah, it's excellent. So before we finish off, is there anything else that you wanted to, last words?
No, I think that the RPL process is done by a candidate. So it's getting the candidate's head in the right place. If you can get them in the right place, their headspace in the right place, they'll have far fewer challenges with the process. So I think it's a critical element of, well, all learning, but that self-efficacy, that judicious use of little feedbacks and motivators and extrinsic motivators to keep them on track is very important for candidate success.
Thank you for your time today, Andy.
It's my pleasure.
Welcome to our platform, Andy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
We don't have any questions specifically to address. Have you had any experience when building self-efficacy is undermined by lack of self-confidence? Yeah. What's your thoughts around that, Andy?
Sure. I mean, self-efficacy and self-confidence, for me, they seem to be sort of the same thing. So yeah, I mean, if somebody's very insecure about their abilities, maybe they've had some bad personal situations where they have a very low self-esteem and self-confidence in many different contexts. It's going to be difficult to build like self-efficacy for learning with those people.
You said before that you, as one of your first tips, you build a professional collegial relationship, perhaps focusing on their competence in their workplace, which has triggered them to come to the education institution, perhaps focusing on that environment where they do feel efficient and able could reduce help them navigate that other learning negative biography.
Sure. I think the key interventions are when they're in the process. I think you said it at the start of the session for the way that the RPL's done. I think in the Australian context, you said that after the first evaluation was the most crucial point. When they get feedback from that first evaluation. So again, that's what I said about identifying that bottleneck. That's where if somebody's missing a few bits, that's where the intervention's got to be. That's where the connection's got to be to say, hey, yeah, don't worry about this. Like half the people have to have a little bit missing in the first time. This is completely normal. Don't worry about it. This is what you can do to resubmit. So it's a way to start building up that relationship and also reassuring them that it's not failure. It's okay. We've identified some gaps in your evidence for your portfolio. That's all it is.
Andy, how do you? So you look after a group of assessors. How do they come to you as a new employee? Do you build this capability and capacity for your assessors to do RPL well?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we have set evaluations, rather than people doing it through a portfolio process. We've designed our own evaluation tools that are basically just workplace tasks that they would do, things that people would do in the workplace. I co-design those with the teachers, with the content specialists. I go into their training sessions where we'll have a talk about, if it's building up a relationship with them, that they will give me their trust that I have valuable suggestions to help them in their practice. Sometimes that can take a couple of years, and the assessors aren't ideal for the first couple of years. You just got to keep chipping away at them, because you can't go in and say, do it this way, because that just won't work. You've got to allow them to give you their trust, and then you can start slowly chipping away at them and guiding them to other practice, basically making them into educators, because
these are your subject matter experts.
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, evaluation is an educational process. You need to know about curriculum alignment. You need to have authentic assessments. They need to be valid. They need to be reliable. subject matter experts don't have this expertise. And the very fact that they're 30 years as an electrician or as I don't know, an early childhood educator, I think you called it a daycare or something like that. We want them for their expertise, but they don't have expertise in education. We need to help them develop a new skill set to help the people that they're assessing.
Whereas in Australia, we've got trainers and assessors that have been trained specifically in assessment, doing the assessment.
That's great. That's fantastic. I mean, that's I don't know about the quality of that training. I have my own opinions on educational training. Sometimes at the university level, it's given by people who are researchers. So are they practitioners? We're practitioners. Sometimes there's a disconnect between the theoretical educational constructs and the actual then taking those and applying those in a real world context. But the fact that they have training is fantastic. That's brilliant. I don't have that. I work with people with no training.
We're struggling at the moment in Australia because as competency-based training, it sometimes says the courses are too short to really have the learners practice and refine their skills. So at the moment we're having a national debate around how long these courses need to be for trainers and assessors. That's a different conversation. Jeffrey's asked here, how can you help, I think this is what he's asking, how can you help candidates come to their own self-awareness of actual gaps?
I mean, I suppose that's a difficult one. I mean, I think it's again, people that have been through quite a lot of formal education will have developed those metacognitive skills of knowing when they don't know. Whereas if you have less formal education, maybe it's more difficult to have those metacognitive skills. How would you work on that? I mean, I suppose you just talk with the person. You sort of say, well, this thing. It's just giving them examples about what they need to be able to demonstrate here, and then if something catches, then they do know it, and if it doesn't catch them, well, they probably don't know it. So
lots of people don't know what they know.
Yeah, I was doing it more the other round, not knowing what you don't know. But yeah, I think that's the thing. Is again, it's a conversation. It's like, okay, well, what do you do for your job? Okay, so tell me about it. What are you doing? So it's helping them link their reality from their job to the core program of study. And again, we talked about that in different ways. That it might be written in completely different ways. The terminology and the language and the practice and the real world might not automatically comport or link naturally to what's written in the program document. And I think that was one of my tips: is rewrite the program document to reality.
Yeah, you said that before. We call it being it's the assessor's job to be able to understand the candidate's workplace and work experience that they're using for the RPL process, and then come up with open-ended questions or contextualized frameworks to be able to prompt them to think about, oh yeah, this is that in my workplace. This looks like this in my daily work task. Oh, you mean this? And so it's really the assessor's job to guide what this qualification looks like in this workplace, in this workplace, in this workplace.
Sure. And that can be difficult because you've got to be sort of, as an assessor, you've got to be open to many different contexts, being able to demonstrate the same set of knowledge and skills.
That's another reason why I say RPL assessment is an advanced assessment skill, because you do have to have that expansive knowledge of the qualification that may go across different industry sectors.
Yeah. I'm just conscious of the fact, do we have a little bit more time, or?
We do. Is there any last words that you wanted to provide, Andy? Any more guidance, tips?
No, I mean, I think it's people. It's helping people through the process. So the only way you can really effectively do that is you need to get to know the person. You get to know how they think, a little bit about their background. The more that we can know them about the person on an intimate level, the better we can do our jobs to guide them through that process, and help them through any obstacles they have along the way, using any of the myriad little techniques and strategies that we have to keep their self-efficacy up, which keeps their motivation going, which keeps them engaged, which leads them through the process to whatever their particular success is.
How many people would you say each semester that you put through RPL, Andy?
At the height of when the economy was terrible and we got loads and loads of people, because it's in continuing education, the economy goes down, our numbers go up. It was about 50 people were graduating a year. So probably about, I was probably dealing with 75, 80 people a year. My first year of teaching, I had to learn 300. My first year of teaching, I had to learn 300 students' names. So 80 is pretty easy.
That's a great tip. Learn your candidate's name.
Absolutely. And it's so easy now because you've got photographs and everything. When I started teaching, it was pre-technology. It was just like you had to remember it and write notes.
Thanks very much for joining us today, Andy.
Thank you very much.
We're up to the end of our session, so we invite Michelle to come on and say goodbye. These recordings are available for 30 days after your registration, and look forward to your company for the next one, which we're looking at throwing away the info, the RPO info kit, and we're going to have a discussion around a digital approach to enrolment and also a personable approach to enrolment.
Thanks, Deb, and thanks so much, Andy, as well, joining us all the way from the other side of the world. Fantastic. And I can see in the chat that a number of our audience have also gathered quite a lot of useful input out of the discussion. So it just proves invaluable every week. Thank you so much for your time coming on, plus the time to prepare the sessions. I know you spent time together pre-recording, and Deb has also collated a lot of supporting material. So as a reminder to everyone, I have dropped in the link for Deb's next session, which is going to be part 7. We've also got the bundle if you are interested in catching up on some of the sessions that Deb has presented prior to today. I'll pop that link into the chat window because, as Deb mentioned, all of the recordings are available for 30 days after the live event. But if you do purchase the bundle, you're able to access all of those, even if you've previously missed them. So the bundle is still live, which means that you can access sessions that were hosted more than 30 days ago. But anyway, I'll leave that with you. Have a think about that. Keep an eye out for the emails coming out for your feedback. That's what's going to trigger your record of PD. And until 2 weeks, isn't it, Deb?
Yes, 2 weeks. And then there's 4 in a row, week after week.
Yes, we're going to be hot on the trot for RPL. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time. And again, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Deb. And thank you to all of our participants. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Bye, Andy. Bye, Michelle.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.